Next tutorial in the 7 Days to Die Prefab Builder Alpha 7.1 version 0.64. This time we're going to go through some of the menu items. Obviously I can read in any of the prefabs that the fun pimps have actually built, so I'll call in Bridge Asphalt 1. It'll go through this window here and change it, so I can click on up. It gets a bit slow when there's lots of colors to change and read through. I can press build if I wanted to build, and it will bring up a build. I'll just call this one test.tts and go save. It tells me it's done, so that would have saved a prefab in the prefab folder for 7.1 as test.tts. The next menu is tools, and in the tools I only have a coordinate reader at the moment. If I click on coordinate reader, it comes up with a message to say this tool reads the player name TTP file in the world's map, saves player name, player game, player folder, and returns the player's position. Obviously the map will be Nava's game, Horde, whatever. Player game could be whatever you've called your game, whether it be my game. Please ensure the player is standing at the position you need when you quit the 7 Days to Die game. So we'll click on yes, and we'll bring up a 7 Days to Die game. I'll actually go back to a game I called Chunk, and if I open that, it tells me that I was last standing when I quit the game at X coordinate 1150, Y coordinate -90, and Z coordinate 61. But that's at eye level, so when you take, I've automatically taken away 2 blocks to bring us back down to ground level, so this should be correct and place it on the ground nicely. The next menu item is block tools, and if we have a look in here, I've got quite a few block tools in here where we can add a row, remove a row, add column, remove column, etc., etc., down to fill layer, copy layer up and down, replace block, and block sizes. I can click on block size 10 and it will redraw in the draw window with the block size of 10 pixels, so it makes it a little bit easier if you've got a fairly big map. Obviously you can press to go to 20 or whatever. The block sizes are available from F1 to F4 if you press the keys. If we go into obviously add row, it will add a row at the current cursor position. Please note this will add a row for all layers. So because you're adding a row and it takes up all of the layers, it will add it in. So we'll click yes, and obviously it's added a row at the bottom because that's where the cursor was. It's changed our Y to 12, which it was on 11. You can of course remove a row, which is obviously the same thing but in reverse. Add column is the same, remove column. Add layer adds the layer to the current layer position, so the new layer will become layer number 2, and everything above layer, or everything from the current layer 2 to layer 11 will move up. So layer 2 will become 3, layer 11 will become layer 12. Remove layer obviously works in the opposite. Now if I want to say fill this layer, I'll go to layer 10 because it just draws it quicker. Then I want to change it to flagstone maybe. At the moment there's no flagstone in there, so I would go to block, select the block I want to add or fill, and go fill layer, and as it says, this will fill the current active layer with the current selected attributes. Go yes, and it fills it up with flagstone. Obviously there's no undo, so once you do it, you either have to reload in your old one if you haven't saved it and redo all your save stuff, blah blah blah. I might add that later on. Say you want to copy a layer, you might want to draw one layer with walls, and then because the walls are 3 or 4 high, you might want to copy layer number 1 to layers numbers 5 through to 10, because it's my current layer I'm on, so you can see that it does something, and go copy layer, and it says it's actually done, and what it's done is actually copied. So if I click minus, it's copied it to all of the layers in between. So layer 1 has been copied to everything. If I click on isometric view, you can see how it's added it in. It was actually layer 4. So you can move that around. Unfortunately the resize blocks does not work in the isometric view. Then what we can do now is we can actually go through, and for convenience, I will fill this layer with flagstone for ease of use on the next tool, the replace block. So the replace block will work as on the whole prefab, so it will search through and replace the target block with the replace block for the whole prefab, or you can work on a layer. So we'll work on layer number 8, because that's the layer we've got drawn, from layer 8 to 11. I could just put 8 there, of course. I can work on the whole layer, or I can only work on selected rows. The rows obviously starting at 1 all the way up, and obviously you can use this data down here to set that. And the columns, obviously the columns start from this side and move their way across. So say I wanted to, knowing that that is 39 blocks across in the X, then I would probably set that to say starting at 15 and ending at 18, and our rows, we will start that in the middle because our rows are the Y, and we'll change that to 4 and 6. Our target block was flagstone. If you've selected a search word, then the search word continues over into these 2 dialog boxes as well, which makes it a bit easier if you wanted to go through and change just wood or something like that. So at the moment I'm just going to replace it with air. So I'll go replace blocks. It doesn't redraw it until you quit and redraw, and it's replaced those blocks that I selected with air. I can of course go press F7 to bring up the block replace. Fill layer is F5, copy layer is F6, replace block is F7. From this layer 8 to 8, selected rows was something around there. Yeah. Rows was 4 to 7, doesn't really matter. 15 to 25, and we're going to replace our flagstone with something else. Let's do some brick. Obviously you can also set an orientation if you know what orientation you've got. So if you want to replace a roof line where the orientation is important, you could actually, and you've put it in the wrong way, you can actually go, I want to change down west to down east, and it might swap it. You could even have that as flagstone again, so it will swap that block with that one. I'm just going to select brick and have any on those, and go replace blocks now, quit and redraw, and you can see it's changed those blocks which were flagstone to brick, but these blocks which weren't flagstone stay the same. If you click outside the build area, it will come up with a warning to say outside the build area. That explains all of the block tools. The edit menu is just for down here. It's just a text window that I use for my debugging. It just fills up and it does nothing. You can obviously select that and go select all, and it will have selected it all, and rah. It has no purpose in the program, just to give me debug information. That's it. It's pretty easy. You can load in anything. Obviously if I type in hotel here, brings in my hotel base. That's 11,396 blocks. It's a fairly big hotel block that I've built. I'm going to jump to block number 7, or layer number 7. So you can see that's obviously that's where my wall layout is and everything, and I'm going to draw layers 6 and 7 in my isometric view. Now I haven't adjusted this for the new version of 7.1 of the alpha. So I have these obsolete blocks because I used one of the lights that is now obsolete, and I put them obviously in and drew them, but they don't show up in the editor because the editor doesn't have a color for that particular numbered block. Obviously I can change this and put in more detail. Obviously this window does not have a resize of the blocks. I might put that in later as an update later on. I'll close that window. So thank you for watching. Have fun.